Good morning, Groovers. It's way too early for me to show my face early Saturday morning in Australia. But I've been thinking about a topic I wanted to discuss probably for a few weeks now, but after something that happened this week, it kind of reignited my thinking about it, and yeah, just wanted to have a little bit of a chat. And then I also stumbled across an article this morning on Twitter, which kind of inspired me to go ahead and do it. What do you think of the print? I'm showing you that instead of my face. And a housemate of mine from a long time ago, Mandy Horn, that's her original work, and it hangs in my kitchen. It's in a black frame, but I've actually got it resting up against my splashback in the kitchen for a picture that's kind of appropriate with what I'm going to chat about. But I really love it. I mean, it's in my kitchen because I love the word eat in the middle of dog eat dog. It seems appropriate, but also we do live in a dog eat dog world. But the way she's depicted it as a yin and yang kind of symbol, I think is pretty superb. And YouTube, just like the real world, is dog eat dog as well. But you can probably tell from the subject of my video that I want to have a chat about social media likes and dislikes, and just a few thoughts I've had over the last few months, actually, to be honest, about them. But what inspired me was finding this article on Twitter about how Facebook has started a trial on Friday this week, where they're removing likes, reactions, and also video views from Facebook. So what they've done is they've essentially turned them all to private, and only the author of that post can see them. Apparently Instagram did a similar thing in July this year, and I'm on Instagram, but I was unaware of that. I'm not that active on Instagram, and I don't know if anyone's ever liked, I do know if people have liked stuff of mine on Instagram, but it's not something I particularly am embedded in the way I've been embedded in YouTube for over 12 months, or nearly 12 months. The reasoning behind Facebook doing this and trialling it in Australia is to try and stop people from comparing themselves to others. And I think that's a really good start. But I also think it could go further and you just take them away entirely. Like, what an interesting experiment that creators also don't get to see the likes and dislikes, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on your own Facebook page, Instagram, whatever. And this is the reason why I feel that way. With Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, likes and dislikes do affect you some of the time. Now, you hear creators brushing off thumbs down, saying things like, keep it up, keep giving me thumbs downs on YouTube. It's just a sign of engagement on my channel, and YouTube just sees the data. I mean, I've even said it myself about dislikes. You just go, oh, well, it's engagement. Or friends of mine that have got dislikes, I've said, don't worry about it, it's just engagement. And we kind of brush it off. But I would be lying if I said I can brush it off every time I get a thumbs down. I can't. The ones that are just thumbs down on my stuff, I know that they're often people who have a gripe with me, because there'll be a thumbs down. If I schedule a live, there'll be a thumbs down on it before I even go live. And, you know, in the real world, I guess it'd be great if we all felt comfortable contacting people and chatting to them about what's going on. But, and I'm guilty of this myself, sometimes we just choose to avoid conflict, and a little passive-aggressive thumbs down seems to be the way some people get a message through to you that they don't like you. But there's also times that I think thumbs downs are deliberate, and they are specifically designed to hurt. And they do. Now, I want to clarify it. I mean, a thumbs down can be because someone doesn't like your content, and that's to be expected. To me, that's a form of giving a review or feedback. And with constructive criticism, which I'm all for, we're going to improve. And I want to put out content that resonates with people. I want my channel to grow organically, and I want your feedback so I can improve and learn what does and doesn't work. And this, to me, this channel's not a, you know, career move. I'm not hoping to retire early or anything like that, but it's a creative outlet. And I want to do stuff that my subs enjoy. So I'm all for it. But if you give a thumbs down because you don't like content and that's it, then how can I grow? How can my channel improve? If you put a comment under a video, then I have an opportunity to consider what's been said and maybe rethink what I'm doing and potentially, you know, make positive changes that will resonate with everyone. But there's also a time, I think, where thumbs downs fail. Not just because you get a message that someone doesn't like it and not giving you any opportunity to improve, but also the ones that are specifically aimed to hurt. And I know that everyone will go, oh, they're just a little thumbs down, get over it, move on. But I want to give you some examples of when I've had thumbs downs on my videos that have been nothing but deliberate attempts to hurt, and not always to hurt me. I'm a realist. I'm not living in some naive bubble where I think everyone is going to like me, nor do I necessarily like everyone else. But the passive-aggressive thumbs downs can be easily ignored. You know, the ones that are... Sorry, I've spent the morning writing this blurb and I've just got completely lost in what I was saying. But yeah, the passive-aggressive thumbs downs because someone doesn't like me, whatever. But when you get a thumbs down that goes beyond the you suck concept, and it's a blatant disregard for the content and how it might affect others, that's when I really have an issue with people giving a thumbs down. And here are the two examples I want to give you. Back in February, I lost a really close friend. And to say that her death hasn't impacted me and still doesn't would be a lie. Like, I have felt since Julie died that I've been existing without a limb. And it's been really tough. I lost 6 people that were very important to me in my life only 18 months before Julie's death, and in a very close space of time. And the grief during that period was just insurmountable and unfathomable, and you kind of almost become not numb to it, but just to survive, you just have to absorb it all and process it, but not be overwhelmed by it. But with Julie, not even 18 months later, just over a year later, and all on her own and very close to me, and that feeling of losing a limb. A lot of the grief from the previous year came flooding back, in particular another beautiful friend of mine, Scott, who died. And yeah, so I was trying to be sort of surviving this year with one limb less than I usually have. So I did a memorial for Julie and just wanted to go live and chat to other people about their experiences as well. And someone put a thumbs down on that video. In fact, I think 2 people did from memory. And they cut like a knife because friends of Julie's were watching the video, and they were grieving for the loss of their friend as well. And those thumbs downs were a complete disregard for those people and the grief that they were experiencing, and also for Julie's life. And whoever did them, I just think, and I thought at the time, that was just blatantly cunty. There's no other way to describe it. And it made me wonder what sort of bitter individual would do that. And don't get me wrong, I've seen other channels. I was watching a girl the other day talking about her sister's death, and I mean, she had something like 11,000 likes and she had about 700 dislikes. And, you know, I've got perspective here. Maybe the little single solitary dislikes stand out. Maybe the longer on YouTube you become more and more resilient and less affected by them. Imagine though seeing, you know, 700, 800, 900 dislikes on a video about the death of your sister. People suck. They can really suck. But more recently, I put up a video for a terminally ill friend who's known in the YouTube world. I'm not going to say her name, but I put up a sunrise video for her, and as soon as it had uploaded and before it could have been watched through, it had a thumbs down on it. And again, I kind of was gobsmacked. I mean, I know people are assholes. I expect people to disappoint me every day. I'd much rather hang out with animals than human beings. It doesn't surprise me that people do shitty things, but that was a video for a terminally ill woman. I tagged her in it. She came over and watched it. She's reading all the comments where she was getting a lot of love and support. But at the end of the day, there's still a fucking thumbs down on there. And it made me feel sick seeing that and knowing that she would see that. I mean, what sort of fucked up, miserable shithead of a person does that? You know, like, I can brush off the other thumbs downs, but not these ones, not the ones on Julie's memorial, not the ones on a sunrise video for a terminally ill woman. They're insensitive, they're cruel, and they're vile. Like, try and put yourself in that person's shoes. I guess you can't, or you wouldn't have done it in the first place. I wish I could say that I hope it never happens to you, so you don't get to feel the total disappointment in just how vicious human beings can be. But it will happen to you. Death, grief, dying, they're part of life. It's inevitable. At some point, you are going to be experiencing those things. And I just hope that you only have decent people around you who are thoughtful, considerate and supportive. Because if you have people like you around you, be prepared. Because their despicable acts of thoughtlessness will cut through you like a knife. But now on to likes, because they're not getting a free pass either. Don't get me wrong, I'm a generous user of the like button. If I watch something I enjoy, they do have a purpose. And I'll admit, I'm a bit lazy. I do put thumbs up and I don't put a comment telling someone why I like the video. I'm as guilty as the rest of us on that count. Hang on, I'm just having some water. 3 years ago, my New Year's resolution was to not use the like button on Facebook. I swear to God, because pardon me, I realised that they were lazy. I realised that that old sort of fashioned engagement with human beings was being replaced by a like. People would hit the like button and then they feel like they'd given you feedback or support or whatever it might be, and that was it. They were done. And it pissed me off because I'd been doing it myself. So I made a New Year's resolution to not use the like button, and the resolution essentially was if somebody bought a house, had a baby, became a grandparent, lost someone in their family, whatever it was, I was going to pick up the phone and actually call that person rather than just put a like or a love heart and leave it at that. In fact, back when I had this resolution, you couldn't do love hearts. It was just likes. All those sort of emojis and love hearts and stuff have come along since then. But I managed to get through the year, and I also touched base with a lot of people that I normally wouldn't have, because I would have just hit the like and moved on. Instead, I was calling people and congratulating them or giving them my condolences or whatever their Facebook status was about. They'd get feedback from me. And I'm going to stop just hitting the like button on YouTube too. I'm going to give people positive feedback. I don't plan on doing the constructive criticism thing unless I'm asked to from a friend, or unless they ask for it in their videos. But I'm certainly going to start leaving more comments and positive feedback, because I know even on my tiny little channel, I mean, I might get 4 or 5 comments on a video, but it's nice to know that people are touched by something that you did, like the sunrise video the other morning. irrespective of the shitty little thumbs down. But there's another kind of like button, pardon me, bronchitis still hanging around and coastal wattle starting to bloom. It's a double-edged sword. The water's actually made me cough more, sorry. There is another kind of like, though, that I'm going to compare it to the comedy world because it's the only way I can really describe this kind of a like. At the start of the year or the end of last year when I started watching YouTube creators and engaging with them outside of the YouTube world, it became apparent very early on that, you know, there's a lot of copying that goes on YouTube and people pinching other people's ideas and getting credit for it. And rightly so, some creators got upset by that. And I can only really compare it in my own experience to what happens in the comedy world, which is in comedy, if you pinch another comedian's joke and do it on stage, that's called hacking. You're known as a hack. And it really can be one time only and that's it. Your career's over. Or it may not be over, but you're never going to be sort of necessarily held in the same regard unless you start putting out original material and move on. And I've got to admit, I fucked up one day. I was on stage, or one night, I was on stage. I was doing a routine at a comedy festival that went for 3 weeks. So we did a set every night for 3 weeks. And I just completely went blank on stage and forgot my material and had no idea what my next joke was meant to be. And I was only like 1 or 2 years into comedy at that point in time. So I wasn't at the point where I was comfortable just ad-libbing and trusting that I had enough material that I'd think of something and I could move on. I was still in the, I've got to memorize this set and do it verbatim and that's it. And embarrassingly so, a joke popped into my head that another comedian I knew did, but he was in another state. And the next thing, that joke came out of my mouth and I got a really good laugh for it because it was a really good fucking joke. But that laugh really didn't make me feel good because I knew I was getting a laugh for someone else's joke. Anyway, that comedian found out that I'd used his joke and I apologised and explained what had happened, and he said, that's cool. Mind you, he found out about it 2 or 3 years later, weirdly. But he said, that's okay, Tor, you know, like I did the same thing. We've all done it and, you know, you've never done it again or with anyone else's material, that's fine. So we were good and we moved on. But I still remember telling that joke, and I mean, I was relieved that I got a laugh because I had frozen and I was freaking out. But I also remember that that laugh felt very different to the laughs I got when I told a joke that I'd written myself. Weirdly, too, with that story, a few years after that, I do a lot of watching other comedians and reading stuff about comedians on stage, online, and I was reading a heap of quotes from George Carlin, and in the list of quotes was the joke. So it turns out the comedian that I apologised and grovelled to for quite some time for hacking his joke had actually hacked George Carlin. But anyway, so that's sort of the comparison I got, I guess, for the YouTube creators who get upset when their material is being, or their content's being copied, and another creator is getting credit for it. And another example I wrote, sorry, was I was just looking at my notes to see if I'd missed anything. At the start of the year, do you guys remember when it wasn't the start of the year, but it was earlier this year when the video footage of Shanann coming home, walking up to the front door came out? And I was still very close to a YouTube creator at the time, and she started getting harassed by a woman who was claiming that that was her material or her content, and not just the creator I was in contact with, but a heap of creators all got blasted by this woman, and I can't remember her name, and I also can't remember the full extent of what she did, but she might have even tried to strike all of their channels for a copyright breach. And and it was apparently, you know, like it was information that was released by World County, I'm pretty sure, or it was a TV station that originally played something. But at the time, I mean, to get copyright strikes for using material that was in the public domain was bullshit, and rightly so. The creator I was close to and other creators were pissed off about it, because this woman was just a thorn in their side and her claims were kind of unfounded and weird. But, you know, slightly different to the creators getting upset when their original content is being, well, not slightly, very different to when a YouTube creator is upset because their original content's been pinched and used on other channels. And I mean, at the end of the day, plagiarism, hacking, call it what you want, it's been around since the dawn of time. I just think if you get likes for those, for when you've ripped somebody else off, that those likes would feel as shallow as the laughter I got when I told George Carlin's joke. But it's equally hurtful when that person is also sitting back in the comments taking full credit for being funny when it wasn't their original joke, content, idea. So I think likes can also affect you, realistically. I do think thumbs down suck, but I think thumbs ups can also be problematic. The reality is there's room for all of us on YouTube. There's room for infinite creativity and originality, and there's room for all of us to be entertained and to entertain. And you're going to see channels that you don't like, so why would you subscribe? I mean, sometimes you might subscribe because you like train wrecks or whatever. I get that. I'm that kind of person. But you don't have to watch and like everything you see on YouTube. But you also don't have to take it so seriously. You know, YouTube should be a playground, not a war zone. So back to this trial of Facebook's in Australia, and I'm going to wrap it up. I was thinking I'd get this covered in 10 minutes and I've gone way over 20. Back to Facebook's trial in Australia. Taking the likes out of the equation has already received positive feedback from anti-bullying groups and mental health organisations. They've already got some really good and compelling data from when Instagram did it in July, but it's already being supported and backed by anti-bullying groups and mental health organisations. I mean, that speaks volumes, really. You know, we can all kid ourselves and keep saying it's just engagement, but if mental health groups and anti-bullying groups think this is a positive step, then there's a lot of data already out there showing people do get affected by what you might think is a very minor action at the time. Taking the likes out of the equation allows people to improve the quality of their interactions with people, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever social media platform, by commenting rather than just being lazy and hitting a button. And it goes back to, yeah, my determination to start putting way more positive comments and feedback on people's videos. Hitting a button's pretty lazy, and I'm not surprised that Facebook chose Australia because we're a pretty apathetic country, and I think, you know, the thumbs up and the thumbs down has been a quick and easy way for us to show our appreciation or criticism, I guess. The other thing about removing the likes is it's encouraging people to feel confident in sharing their own original content without being worried about what other people think, and I think that's a great thing too. I think a lot of the time people copy other people on YouTube or any platform, like comedy venues, me telling George Carlin's joke, other comedians telling my jokes, because we're worried our own content may not be good enough. And you've just got to trust that it is. It's going to resonate with somebody. And I think taking away the stamp of approval with a like or the stamp of disapproval with a dislike, it's going to make people feel more confident about putting their original material out there and seeing how it's taken. Don't you think it'd be cool if YouTube took a page out of Facebook and Instagram's books and trialled this as well? It's food for thought, right? But look, it's a stunning day here. I'm heading to the beach. I've gone way over time. Feel free to like or dislike this video, because it's only, after all, at least in YouTube's eyes, a sign of engagement, right?